The last part of our game to wrap everything up is our GUI. So we need three GUI things or text things in our scene. One for score, one for lives, and then we're going to have a game over GUI that says either you win or you lose. So we're going to create those first. So let's go to UI, create a text component under game object. Now let's do a quick reminder of how this works. The canvas is this white box in which all your GUI components are rendered. If you come over here, the render mode is overlay, so your game is actually way down here, as you can see as mine, okay, but your canvas is way up here, okay? And then the next thing is your text component. So your text component here is inside the canvas. But remember, it's really small, so the best thing to do is come over here to the canvas scaler and say scale with screen size. We can leave the default 800 by 600. Go to the text component here, click on this free transform tool, size it up so that we can see our font. I'm going to say size 50, set the color again to white, move it up here in the corner. Compared to where the aliens are, that looks really big, so maybe I'll size it down to like 35. That looks not too bad. This could say, we're going to say this is going to be on lives, so I'm going to say lives equals 0, or in my case, my starting lives is 3. Then I know I can size my text box down here like this. Maybe I'll rename this to lives text, so I know what it is. And then simply duplicate and move over here to the other edge. And instead of live text, this is going to be score text. And I'm going to say score is equal to 0. And in my case, I want to test it with maybe 2 zeros because the max score on here, like we said, with the how many aliens we have should be 32. And so that should work. Right now, score is going to be equal to 0. If we wanted to, we could write justify so it's onto the side here like this. So when it says 34, it'll say 34, 0 is going to say 0. I could buffer this in a little bit if you want. Don't have to, but just so it's not hanging on the edge of the screen, something like that. And last but not least, I'm going to duplicate one of these text components and kind of scale it up. And this is going to be my game over text component. And it's going to be center aligned. And this is going to be where I say you lose or you win. And I just want to check to see what the text looks like here. I'm going to keep it in the center on this snap to this grid. And I'm going to up the size to say 100, maybe 50. So I can see the size of the text, and it looks pretty good here. If I need to, you can come into the enemy wave and hide it so you can see what it looks like. Now, you have to think with the enemy wave active, the enemy wave at most is going to hit about here. So I want to make sure my game over text is positioned so that it's like, above, like this is a good position. And also I probably just want to check one line, see how it looks for that. You lose. So right about here is pretty good. So move my enemy wave back up here to, I think I had it at what, like right about 2.75 or 2.5, I think is what I had it at. Something like that. Now, I don't want to see this text, so I could have it turn off and on like that, or instead, I could just simply have no text at all in it, just like that. So now I have my text components made. I need to now go back to my game controller script and code these things in. First thing is I need these text components to be able to modify them. I need connections to them, so I need variables. That's what we did with the Pong and the breakout. First step is saying using Unity Engine.ui, and then once you add that to the top, you create 3 variables: public, text, score GUI, public, text, I'll say lives GUI, and public, text, game over GUI. Something like that. And then I could just go in and I need to set them. So just like we did with the ball script, as you can see, like right here, I said write score text dot text is equal to the variable dot toString. Well, in our case, we're actually going to do a little bit more. We need to keep that text that says lives and score, colon. So come down to our code, find where we left these comments like lives GUI update. So I need to update the GUI here for lives. So I need to say lives GUI dot the text component is equal to the string of lives space. And then I use the plus sign and I say lives dot to string. And basically what that does is it combines them, or does something that they in programming called concatenate. It puts the two strings together. So it says lives space and then takes lives and it turns it to string and it puts it on the end of lives in here. We'll come back to game over, but I'm going to do the same thing with the score. So score GUI dot text is equal to score plus the score variable dot to string. And last but not least, game over. Well, game over has two states. We either win or we lose. How do we know if we win or lose? Well, it all happens in these trigger enters and the add scores. And also, it could do it if just our lives is also 0, right? So not only in this trigger enter does it do it, but it could also do it down here. And so what we need is probably an extra variable to just kind of track if we win or not. So I'm going to make a private one more variable up here at the top called Boolean, and I'm going to say win is equal to false. So win is automatically going to be false. So no matter what, when we come into the game over, if win is false, then we can check that and use our text element and set the text to like you lose. The only time we're going to modify if we win is right here under add score. When aliens left is equal to 0, we know that win is equal to true. So set win to true here, lives is equal to 0, reset. When we come up here now, we can check if win. And this is a Boolean variable, so again, just like I did with the checking the stop game, and I just said if stop game. So if win is true, then I know that my variable game over GUI dot text should equal the text you win. Otherwise, the game over GUI should equal you lose. Now when you come over to Unity, click over on the game controller and you can see we have empty variables. So we need to now, last step before you play, otherwise you'll get object reference not set to an instance of an object. You'll get that set, okay, to null because nothing is set. So we need to make sure that we drag over and connect each of our text components. So lives, score, and game over should all be attached. I'm going to hit play, hide my controller, speed up my wave, and now see that it says you lose, and I can't move, which is perfect. And to reset this back to 1, I'm also just going to go into my game controller, and just to double check, I'm going to say I have 2 aliens left. And this allows me to just check that once I shoot 2 aliens, that the whole game stops, and as you can see, the GUI says you win. So I know that this state works. So I'm going to go back and change my aliens left back to 32, the amount I started with. But again, this is kind of testing to make sure everything works. So that's it for Space Invaders. The one thing we will do is in the final capstone, I guess you could say, of this project is we will connect all 3 games or 4 games that we're going to make together and add menus. And so we will have to go back into each game and add a menu. So of course, when it says you win or you lose, we need to have some buttons like restart game or go back to the menu. So we don't have that done yet, but and restarting. But in general, with Space Invaders, we now have kind of a fully functional game.